Every year, Pokemon trainers from all around the globe gather at one specific location to compete for the title of World Champion. This year, it's being held in Yokohama, Japan, the birthplace of Pokemon itself. To understand fully the Pokemon World Championships and the road that we took to get there, we're going to have to deep dive into the history of the Pokemon TCG. My name is Rahul Reddy, and today we're going to be looking at the PTCG Legends website, which has an extensive history of the World Championships that have been held every single year, and today we're going to be talking about that. So welcome to the history of the Pokemon World Championships. The first ever Pokemon World Championship was held in 2002 from the set's Neo Genesis 2 Legendary Collection. This World Championships took place in Seattle, Washington, was the first and only Worlds held by Wizards of the Coast. This event, in a sense, replaced Wizards of the Coast's annual Tropical Mega Battles that took place from 1999 to 2001, which wasn't really hosted by Pokemon. This was the first ever Pokemon World Championship to take place with nearly 300 players competing. With only two age groups at the time, the younger of the two age divisions played 5 rounds on Saturday, with the top 24 players moving on to a new set of 3 rounds on Sunday, followed by a top cut of 8 players. This was the same with the older division, but 32 players moving on to Sunday, with 4 additional rounds before their top cut of 8. This reason for the lack of World Championship event not taking place, 2003, it did not happen. World Championships just didn't happen because Wizards of the Coast was taken over by Nintendo. So Pokemon was taken over by Nintendo. During the Wizards of the Coast era, major events were catered toward kids only, meaning no one over the age of 14 was able to compete. However, there was a Professor Championship that took place in the event hall, allowing players of the age 15 and up to play. Alex Brousseau was our eventual champion with Metal Chansey. There was something called the LCQ, meaning the Last Chance Qualifier. This was on Friday of the World Championship. More than 100 players would compete in 2 divisions, and it would be a hectic single elimination tournament until it whittled down to a few players that were able to move on and advance to the World Championships. Here are the players listed here. This also had the 6 or 7 legal sets that were available during the tournament and the few banned cards for the tournament. Every year there's usually different pricing and World's promotional cards, and this year's pricing is unknown to the public, and there was no promotional card handed out at this year's event. Here are the overall results. You guys can check them out more in depth. In the 11 to 14 division, we had Dylan Austin with Feraligatr Slowking. The 10 other division, we had Mindy Lampkey win with her Donphan Slowking deck. And in the Professor division, which was the 15 and up, they did not use the World's modified format, or rather base to Neo, and Alex Brousseau was a winner with Metal Chansey. Here are some of the old school pictures that, made it through some of the old Polaroid cameras. As you can see, it was a little bit smaller of an event. Much tinier, much more in a ballroom, in a hall kind of setting. But as we know, today the Pokemon World Championships are much more than that and have become something much, much bigger. In 2004, we had our first World Championships taken place by Nintendo in Orlando. This is the first Worlds where Pokemon was able to run it, and 130 players were invited directly to the main event. As a last chance qualifier that we talked about earlier, the Grinder, as it was so commonly called, was held on Friday before the main event. The top 32 players for each division were allowed to compete in the next event. Many players argued that this is the first ever World Championships, but in 2002, Wizards of the Coast did have one. But given this is the first official one sanctioned by Pokemon Organized Play, or Play Pokemon, the company we know today that hosts all of our events, these players aren't entirely wrong. The legal sets expanded a little bit further, and the pricing was lucrative. First place won $7,500 back in the day, with second place winning $2,000, top 4 with $3,500, and top 8 $1,500. The top 4 finishers received an automatic invitation to the 2005 World Championships, and the top 4 finishers also received 1 booster box from every set for the upcoming year. And that year, the World Championship promo was a card called Tropical Wind. You can see the Psyduck that's being sported in the image, and a couple of the Hoenn starters here. The results of that tournament, well, Sugiyoshi Yamato won in the 15 and over division. We now have officially the 15 and over division, and the Professor division has been removed. And in 11 to 14, we had Takuya Yoneda winning with his Groudon deck, and 10 and under, Japan completes the complete sweep with Hayato Sato taking that one. Here are some of the old school pictures as well from that one with the Japan all sweep, a little bit smaller of a venue as well here. You can see this is very clearly a ballroom, a lot of old retro pictures of people just hanging out, playing, getting their promo cards. The World Championship trophies back in the day were a little less flashy than they are today. You can see it all here. Next, the year is 2005. We head to San Diego, California for the second Worlds, and the first of 3 times we go to San Diego. A last chance qualifier was also held at this one, the Friday before the main event, where only the top 8 players were allowed into the event. A stark difference from the years before, because Pokemon was becoming more popular and players were recognizing that they could qualify through the circuit. Just like the year before, the pricing remained exactly the same, but this time we had Tropical Tidal Wave as the World Championship promo. An interesting change from the Tropical win the year before. Championship Arena was also handed out to competitors, but not legal for Worlds. It wasn't distributed at check-in, but anonymously slipped in under players' hotel room doorways Friday and Saturday night in a Mew envelope pictured below. So this is arguably one of the most exclusive and rare cards to find in these days. Also, probably not in pristine condition, given that it was slipped under the envelope, in an envelope under the door of many players. The results of this year was Jeremy Marin winning with Nido Queen in the 15 and up division, Stuart Benson winning with his Medicham deck in the 11 to 14 division, and Curran Hill completing the US sweep with a Medicham deck in the 10 and under division. This was another year, one of the first couple ones, so you can see the big checks being handed out, the novelty ones, a couple of players. A lot of the mascots are out and about. The number 1 trainer card being displayed here for the victory, more judge calls, all that. The t-shirt for that year specifically, and the championship arena card that was slipped under the envelopes. In 2006, we headed to Anaheim for the first of many times that we would go there. It was a 2-day event, once again, with 8 rounds on Saturday and a single elimination cut for 32 on Sunday. So now we had a different formula for the top cut. This is the final year of premier events before divisions were reworked and named what we're familiar with today: juniors, seniors, and masters. The pricing remained exactly the same, and we saw Tropical Tidal Wave make another appearance as a World Championship promo. The results of this year was Jason Klaczynski winning his first of 3 World Championships in the 15 and over division, Miska Sari winning in the 11 to 14 division, and then in the 10 and under division we saw Hiroki Yano winning with LBS, Lugia Blastoise. There are some streams here with the finals of the World Championships, obviously on very scuffed quality, so you can check these out as you please. And here are a few pictures from that year's event, including the event t-shirt. In 2007, we went to Hawaii for the first of 3 times, and it was a 2-day event with 3 counting the LCQ. The main event consisted of 6 rounds, followed by a single elimination top cut of 16 on Sunday. Only 53 players from around the world were invited to compete in this year's World Championship, making it one of the smallest by invite. This event hosted a last chance qualifier, and LCQ competitors played 6 rounds on Friday, in which only the top 4 advanced to the World Championships. Rather harsh. This is the first year we were familiar with the divisions being juniors, seniors, and masters, the exact same that we know today. The invite threshold was a little different. Players with the highest ELO Premier rating by the end of the season earned an invitation to Worlds: North America's top 8, Europe's top 4, APAC's top 1, and Latin America's top 1. Players that placed top X at their country's national championships earn an invitation to the World Championships. Top 4 from NA Nats, top 3 from Canada Nats, only the winner of UK Nats. And the top 4 players of the LCQ earn an invitation to Worlds. This was by far probably the hardest year to qualify for the World Championships because Pokemon and organized play were still figuring things out. ELO, while on paper, determines the best players and the best system, was a very easy system to game. You could go 1-0, 2-0 at a tournament and drop to preserve your rating. ELO is a different story for a different day. If you're interested in that, you can look that up at your own leisure. We saw more sets being added to the pool, the prize pool being the exact same, and Tropical Wind making a reappearance, to this poor Psyduck's dismay. The results of that year? Well, Tom Roos takes it down in Masters, with Jeremy Sharf Kim taking it in the senior division, and Jun Hasabe taking it in the juniors division. Yep. And here are some of the pictures from that year. Not too many once again, but we do see the t-shirt, which is the most important thing of that year's booklet. And then we head in 2008 to Orlando for a second time. This event was a 7-round tournament once again, with single elimination of top 32 cut on Sunday. This year, 148 players were invited to the main event, 3 times as many as the year before. You can tell that Pokemon realized their mistakes from the year prior and wanted to make it a larger world. Now this number, 148, is about roughly what they want to look for every single year, and it has stayed consistent throughout the years. This event also included a last chance qualifier where top 12 players were invited to the main event. Players with the highest ELO once again earned an invite, but this time NA instead of top 8 got top 25, Europe got a top 20, APAC 4, LATAM 2. And the World Championship invites also went down deeper at Nats, with top 8 getting it at NA and top 4 at UK. This year's Worlds promo was Tropical Wind. Once again, this side deck is always hanging out and lounging, it seems like. That year, we had the host of Nick McCord leading the charge, and one of my favorite hosts that we've ever had. Jason Klasinski then wins his second World Championship in the Masters Division, playing his Gardeca Late deck, and in seniors, Dylan Lefevre wins with Empoleon, and in juniors, we saw Tristan Robinson taking it down with Scizor, Toxicroak in a field of Gardevoir Gallades. In the booklet and pictures this year, we see the big novelty check once again in the hands of the players. Still sort of a ballroom setting, a little bit smaller than the World Championships we're used to these days. And you can see that there was exclusive DS lights branded with the World Championships on them handed out that year as well. Something that was very, very, very cool, I think, and something that, we would love to see in today's world. In 2009, we headed to San Diego again. It was a 2-day event with 3 in the LCQ and a top 32 like the years prior. Only the players of the 6-0 were able to advance to the main event, and it used the same exact rotation as the 2000 World Champion 2010 World Championships the following year. This is the exact same set rotation of Diamond and Pearl on. For the first time and only time to this day, Worlds was held from Thursday to Sunday, unlike the traditional Friday through Sunday schedule. So a little bit more interesting where finals was held on Saturday, but definitely some sort of error on their end. The invite structure remained roughly the same from the year before, and we saw the promo card this year being Tropical Wind once again. Sadak has now left the hammock and is hanging out with a guitar, or a ukulele actually. Nick McCord once again was the host here in beautiful San Diego, California. We saw Steven Silvestro winning with his Beedrill Luxray deck in the Masters Division, Takuto Itagaki winning with Honchkrow Toxicroak in the Seniors Division, and Tsubasa Nakamura winning with Toxicroak Honchkrow as well in the Juniors Division. We see some more pictures here, a little bit more coverage coming in. People's cameras are definitely getting better. And another exclusive World Championship DS from 2009, something that I think is a very cool thing that they did back in the day. In 2010, we headed to Hawaii for the second time with a 2-day event at a top 32 cut, 115 players in the main event this time as well, and another LCQ where you had to go undefeated to advance to the next day. You had the same exact set rotation of DP on this year, and Yuta Komatsuda won the World Championship title with an undefeated 12-0 record. This was not something that was very common. Winning undefeated was a very difficult task, especially at the World Championships, where players are known to be quite well. This year we had Tropical Tidal Wave coming back as a Worlds promo, this time with the yellow borders that we're more familiar with here and there. Nick McCord once again being the host, the pricing remaining the exact same. This was another year with the ELO system where players were earning their invite. Yuta Komatsuda takes it home in the Masters Division with Luxray Garchomp. In the Senior Division, we saw Jacob Lesage taking it down also with Luxray Garchomp from Canada. And then Yuta Furusawa taking down Junior Division with Jumpluff from Japan. There are a couple of streams here and there. You can watch some of the matches recorded, and then you see some pictures of the important things that year. This is the year where Heart Gold Soul Silver, I believe, came out. So people were kind of rejoicing, relishing in the era of Johto. You can see some of the exclusive Worlds merch in some of these pictures. The championships, the winners, Ray Rizzo taking his first Worlds title, I believe, back in Kona, Hawaii. In 2011, we headed to San Diego for the third and final time. And the main event consisted of 7 rounds with a top cut of 16, so slightly different from the usual 32. We also had the LCQ in similar fashion, and for the first time in history, we had an emergency rotation heading into the World Championships due to a Sableye Donk deck, which would win the game in one turn without having the opponent be allowed to play the game. So 7 sets were legal, making this one of the smaller Worlds, and also the first ever Worlds to have a rotation before the World Championships. We had another year of ELO, with, I believe, top 40 players this year getting it around, so a little bit bigger of a World Championship breakdown, and the Nationals invites also scattered downwards. We saw Tropical Beach being this year's World Championship promo and the most playable World Championship promo to date, causing itself to be in the World's finalist deck in Ross Cawthon's second place deck, The Truth, and it was just an amazing card all over around. We had Nick McCord being the host, and for the first time ever, we saw official, quote-unquote unofficial casters in the form of Kyle Pukasukovic and Josue Rojano casting from the Top Cut YouTube channel, something that all you guys might be too familiar with. We saw David Cohen taking it down with his Magnezone Emboar deck, Christopher Kahn in the Senior Division with the Typhlosion Reshiram deck, and in the Junior Division, Gustavo Wada, a name you might be familiar with today, taking down with Magnezone Yanmega. There are some pictures here. The themes every year were very, very cool. This is one of my personal favorites. The trophies look absolutely phenomenal this year with the number 1, 2, 3 trainers being displayed here. A little bit of a bigger ballroom, as you can tell. The decor is starting to bleed out. You're seeing the skateboard, the themes starting to really lean into the World Championships being more of an event and rather just a championship. In 2012, we headed to Hawaii for the third and final time. And the main event consisted of 7 rounds and a top 16 once again. So the top 32 has been more or less taken off the record, and the LCQ still remains strong. This is the first season to incorporate championship points, a far superior system than the ELO Premier Rankings, which players were no longer pressured to drop mid-event to keep their ELO, and players were able to qualify more abundantly to the World Championships, but the first year of championship points was not a great one. Championship points were hard to earn, and if you missed the City Championship cycle, it was near impossible to earn a World Championship invite without a sick finish. We saw an increase in pricing as well to $10,000 to first place, and a bump across the board as well. And we also saw 2 booster boxes now being handed out instead of just 1. We see Tropical Beach being brought out for a second year with all the Psyduck at the back and hanging out. Nick McCord coming back as a host, and the Top Cut YouTube channel brought a little more brass this year with Kyle Pukasukovic, Drew Holton, Jimmy O'Brien, and Ben Potter taking the helm to unofficially cast this one. We saw Igor Costa taking this down with his Darkrai Mewtwo deck, and in seniors, we saw Chase Maloney taking with his Electric Mewtwo deck, and Shuto Itagaki winning in the junior division with Mewtwo Terrakion. Here are some pictures from the event as well. I would love to see it go back to Hawaii. An amazing theme. You can see all the pictures of the stuff here. Back in the day, they would hand out the promos in a binder page. Glad they don't do that anymore. We can see some old familiar faces here, and the World Championship winning trophy here. 2013, it took place for the first time outside of the US. Until now, if you've noticed, the World Championships has always been in the United States, and for the first time, we headed to Vancouver, Canada. It was a 2-day event, once again, with a last chance qualifier, and this time it was 8 players, I think, that came through. And the eventual world champion actually came through the last chance qualifier, which is the first time ever that a last chance qualifier player has won the world championships. This was another year with the championship point system. Once again, a very hard year. 4 championship points before any adjustments were made. A little bit of a rehash of the year before. Play Pokemon is still figuring their stuff out. We saw Champions Festival be the new card, and this has become the promotional card since 2013 all the way to today. Spoiler alert. And it might be also the World Championship promo for the 2023 World Championships. We'll know by the end of this week. We saw Nick McCord hosting with official TCG casters Josh Jaywitz, Wittenkiller, Josue Rojano, and Dylan Exabyte Mayo taking the helm. Pokemon is now officially on the map with a stream. Jason Klaczynski winning his 3rd World Championship title in this year. Kaiwin Kababe winning his senior World Championship title with Kyram Deoxys. And then Andre Kujal winning their junior division title with Sableye Darkrai. It's the first year that IGN also helped host some of these streams. We said some mainstream coverage from Pokemon, some amazing pictures from this year's World Championships as coverage became bigger. You see the World's kit right here, a great picture of that, and you can see some of the just people that attended and just general trophies, etc., etc. So the themed Pikachus from that year, the confetti, the stage, all you can ask for. 2014 took us to Washington, D.C. for the first time ever, and that's my hometown, so it was awesome to go there for myself. Didn't qualify, though. I just went. This was another event that was held with championship points, and this is one of the hardest years to qualify as well because of how limited championship points were to earn, and you had to go 7-0 in the LCQ to qualify from the grinder. There was $10,000 handed out as well here, and we brought another Champions Festival to the table in Washington, D.C., with Jess Brohard becoming our official host, with TCG casters Kyle Pukasukovic, Josh Jaywitz Wittenkiller, Jose Rojano, and Dylan Exabyte Mayo taking the helm in Washington, D.C. We saw Andrew Estrada of Canada being the youngest Masters World Champion ever, winning with Verzian Genesect, Trent Orndorff winning with Excalibur Trevenant in the senior division, and Haruto Kobayashi winning with Plasma in the junior division. This is one of the bigger venues, and obviously people's cameras are getting better and photos are getting significantly great across the board. You can see here that they decorated the entire hall where it was being held. The venue is getting larger a stark difference from the ballrooms we started off in, is it not? Look at this amazing hall that they rented out with a lot of players attending, more side events, more ways for people to participate. The World Championship mat that year, a lot more to do for just people that aren't competitors every single year. Trophies as well here. In 2015, we headed to Boston, Massachusetts. It was the first ever 3-day event, where without the LCQ being involved. The last chance qualifier was removed for the first time in history, and it became a 3-day event with the day 1, day 2, and day 3 World Championship structure. Day 1 was anyone who qualified for the World Championship based on championship point threshold. Day 2 was the top X from each region, meaning top 16 from North America, top 22 from Europe, etc., etc. Those players would receive an automatic day 2 bye, and they were already waiting in that day, and players from day 1 would have to advance Players from day 1 have to advance to day 2 to qualify and compete for that main event. Day 3 was just the finals, but you had to make it to that threshold. The championship point threshold was remarkably low this first year at 300 championship points, which allowed a lot of players to qualify for the World Championships here in Boston. There was a banned card on the list with Lysander's trump card, and we saw travel stipends being awarded to the top players as well in each region to compete in the tournament itself. $3,500 for all the players who were traveling from out of region, and $2,000 for the players attending in region. We saw automatic day 2 buys here in US and Canada with 16, Europe for 22, LATAM 8, and Oceania 8. Here you can see some of the players' names. If you want to look at them, you can pause or go to the website yourself. I'm going to go ahead and move on. We then saw an increase in pricing as well for the first year, with the pricing being $25,000 for first place, and the World's promo being a Champions Festival once again. A lot of ducklets hanging out. We saw Jonathan Indovino being our host, with Kyle Pukasukovic, Josh Jawitz, Wittenkeller, Kenny Wisdom, and Josue Rojano taking the helm of the TCG cast. We then saw Jacob Van Wagner winning one of the most iconic finals with his Archie's Blastoise decks over Mies Brinkenmeyer. And then we saw Patrick Martinez winning with Toad Manectric. And then in juniors, we had Rowan Stavenau winning with Landorus Crobat. We see a lot of cool pictures from this year. One of the most attended years due to also the first year ever of the World Championships holding something called an open event, which was a regionals at the World Championships that allowed players to get a head start on the next season. This incentivized a lot of players to travel out to Boston to compete in the Boston Open that year. In 2016, we headed to San Francisco, California for the 5th time, going to California, not San Francisco. And this was another one of those day 1, day 2, day 3 invites. And we can see here how the number has skyrocketed. 476 Master Division players competed in the first day of the World Championships, making this probably one of the easiest years to earn your World Championship invite. It was also my first. This was a long tournament that resulted in one of the worst venues ever, honestly. There was fire hazards, and this was the first year I believe Pokemon finally realized we've outgrown ballrooms. We need to start moving to bigger venues because it's becoming too much of a fire hazard. All of the games were held in separate rooms. Kind of a disaster for anyone who played in that one. They can explain to you why. We saw the system once again take place, and these are the players who advanced from day 1 to day 2 automatically. We saw the Champions promo being Champions Festival once again. The host was Anna Prosser, with the TCG casters roster being expanded significantly to include Kyle Pukasukovic, Josh Jawitz, Wittenkeller, Kyle Sabelhaus, Kenny Wisdom, Jeremy Jallin, and Josue Rojano. Shintaro Ito from Japan took this down with his Mega Audino deck, something incredibly unorthodox. And in seniors, we saw Jesper Eriksson taking this down with Jan Mega Vespaquin. And then we saw Shunto Sadaharo taking this with Darkrai Giratina in the junior division. And then we see some of the cooler pictures here. You can see how tiny this venue actually was, which led to quite a few hassles. The opening ceremony being delayed, people being brought out quite late. And, this was the first year that Pokemon realized we had to move to a bigger venue. So we returned to Anaheim, California, with 206 Master Division players competing in day 1, with 54 moving on to day 2. This event was the first one to feature a World's Pop-Up Center, and the second one to feature another Open that was more publicly shown, the Anaheim Open, which was played during day 2 of the main World event. So if you were in day 2 of Worlds, you didn't get a chance to play in the Open for World Championship points for the next season, but everyone else did. This is also the first year where the World Championship point structure was changed halfway through the year. Pokemon decided it was going to be way too hard for players to earn that 500 championship points they'd initially slated, and increased the amount of points that could be earned from every single event throughout the year. If regionals, for say, would award 200 points for first place, they bumped it to 250 because they said, hey, I don't think we can get enough people to the World Championships this year. A lot of people were affected, and this change happened in April. A much bigger set of sets were available, and you can see here the players who automatically advanced from day 1 to day 2. The casters that year were Anna Prosser with the host, Kyle Pukasukovic, Josh Jaywitz-Killer, Kyle Sabelhaus, Kenny Wisdom, Jeremy Jallin, and Jose Rojano. And we see here the Champions Festival once again in 2017. This year was Diego Casiraga of Argentina taking this down with Gardevoir, Zachary Bakari taking this down with Alolan Ninetales, and Tobias Stromdahl taking this down with Gardevoir in the junior division. Here's some pictures from that year. A much, much bigger haul, as you can see from the years before. Pokemon Go was just out and about a year out at this point, so this craze was crazy across the board. You can see the venue, the event. The event started becoming more and more of a experience for those coming in with the World's Pop-Up Center and the stage being bigger and looking cooler, and you can just see how many people were there in Anaheim. In 2018, we headed to Nashville, Tennessee, and it was another 3-day event with the day 1, day 2, day 3 system, with 525 players qualifying for the first day of competition in the Masters division and 56 advancing. We had a second or third Nashville Open event, but this time it was just another fun way to get a head start on everything. There's another World's pop-up shop that was held for a lot of competitors to go buy some goodies. 400 points of the threshold to have qualified, and this was one of the few events where the World Championship finalist Jeff Koling was disqualified, banned, and stripped of his title days after the event due to some suspicious shuffling, you could say. Then here are the day 2 automatic competitors. You can see them here if you'd like. Once again, we had the event promo being a Champions Festival, and then we had Anna Prosser being the host with the 6 casters: Kyle Pukasukovic, Kyle Sabelhaus, Kenny Wisdom, Jeremy Jallin, Jose Rojano, and Cora Grijow. So this year we saw Robin Schultz winning the entire tournament with Zoroark Garbodor. Senior division, we saw Magnus Peterson taking this down with Bennett Garbodor. And in juniors, we saw a Buzzrock player, Naohito Inoue, take this down from Japan. This is one of the first events you could also see. It's now becoming more of an experience for players who aren't competitors. There's an open event to be played when you get there. The stage is an electrifying experience if you can get up there. The hall is massive. An entire viewing area has been erected for the tournament. The stream quality has gotten significantly better, and Pokemon is now putting on a show for everyone at home as well as the people who are there. In 2019, we headed back to Washington, D.C., and it was another very large day 1, but championship points needed to be 550 for the Masters division, and we saw a lot compete automatically. We had a D.C. Open as well, but this time we had so many players come to the D.C. Open that they split the D.C. Open into 2 D.C. Opens. There were so many players that there was 2 tournaments held with 512 players simultaneously, giving out 2 regional championship winner amounts of championship points for both events. We had a banned card, Blaine's Quiz Show, due to some goofy text on the card. And here are your automatic advancers from that year to day 2. Then we had the Champions Festival once again using a Fossil Museum style theme. You can see in the back there's the 2014 Champions Festival as an homage to the DC year. You can see some of the other ones as well, 2016, 2017. Just a cool callback across the board on this promo card. Anna Prosser leading the charge once again, and we saw the same slew of 6 casters kicking us off here in DC. Henry Brand from Australia, putting Australia on the map with his Mewtwo and Mew tag team deck and winning the entire tournament. In seniors, was Kyle Lickleitner winning with Reshiram and Charizard, and then Haruki Miyamoto winning with Pikachu and Zekrom in the juniors division. This is when the show became much larger, the stage, an absolutely electrifying experience. You can see how many people are now coming out with the size of this hall. The World Championships is now an event for everybody. You can come, you can experience it. Pokemon has put a lot of time and effort into making this an absolute experience rather than just for the competitors. In 2022 or 2020, the World Championships were canceled to be held in London due to COVID, but they brought them back in 2022 and became the first ever 4-day World Championship Series, with everyone who met the championship point threshold the 2020 and 22 season invited to play day 1 to move to day 2, and then day 2, all the players who were already qualified were already there, and then those players would then go towards only playing top 8 on Saturday, giving every single one of the top 8 matches its own limelight on the stream, and there was an asymmetric cut on that first day, on that third day. On the 4th day, it was finals. But the London Open kicked off as usual on the Saturday. So this time, players who made it automatically to day 2, if you weren't in top 8 of the World Championships, you could go play in the London Open this time. There's once again 2 London Opens and a much, much larger Pokemon Center that was popped up, and a huge experience rather than just a simple store. We had a separate live stream for Japan as well this year, making it much more of a show for them as well. There was a lot of invites this year because points carried over from year 1 to year 2, and players were just brought in. There was a lot of banned cards that were just unavailable to players or playability. Here you can see that they doubled all the automatic day 2 competitors, and you can see all the names here that advanced from each of the regions. This year we also had a Champions Festival as the promo. Once again, no surprise to anybody. And then the Path to the Peak promotional card was distributed online to various competitors on PTCGO and PTCG Live, and we'll have one this year as well. Anna Prosser was brought back as the host with Kyle Pukasukovic, Joe Bernard, Ross Gilbert, Ethan Hagster, Adam Watson, and Shelby Boo taking the helm to cast the Pokemon World Championships. We saw Andre Skubal winning with his Arceus Pikachu VMAX deck. In seniors, Liam Halliburton winning with Palkia Inteleon, and in juniors, Rikuto Ohashi with Ice Rider Calyrex Palkia. There's so many cool pictures from this year, if they would load. The stage, absolutely electrifying. They had stadium seating for the first time as well for competitors and everyone to watch as an experience was being held. Let's Play sections, the Open, London completely transforming to support the World Championships in the area, the event hall having all these amazing banners, telephone poles across the board, the #1 trainer card. You can see the World Championship kit here is now expanded slightly. Also, I took this picture, by the way. Just wanted to throw that out there for everyone watching. And they had an outdoor viewing area, which was really cool as well. The Pokemon Center being now an experience, much bigger of a pop-up area, a welcome trainer sign, just an absolute treat of a World Championship, setting the golden standard for what the World Championships should be moving forward. An absolute experience and not just for fun. That brings us to this year, 2023. We're heading to Yokohama, Japan, the birthplace of Pokemon, for the first ever time. We are now heading there, and the Yokohama Open, which was going to be slated for everyone, has been canceled 3 weeks before the World Championships for undisclosed reasons, but there's still a lot of things to do for everyone. We don't know what the promo card, the distributed card, or the event swag is just yet, but we will know just in a little bit. Here are the automatic advancing players from day 1 to day 2, adding Middle East and South Africa to the day 2 invite list, and we have Anna Prosser as our host, Kyle Pukasukovic, Chip Ritchie, Kyle Sablehouse, Ethan Hagster, and Ross Gilbert taking the helm to kick us off in the action in Yokohama, Japan. Stay tuned for all the action at the Yokohama, Japan World Championships, and if you stayed around this long, I hope you are a huge fan of Pokemon and just the World Championships in general. Each year has a story that's being told, and each year's competitive season is something very, very different. Check out Ruby Retro's YouTube channel for each year in depth, more or so. This was an overview of the World Championships for now, and I hope you guys enjoy. If you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe for more competitive content and how to qualify for the World Championships yourself rather than just sitting at home and watching, or how to follow along if you want to do that as well. Thank you so much. My name is Rahul, and peace out, guys.